Hi, everybody. We're back with Tarter Sauce. That's our podcast here at the Journal-Star, Peoria Journal-Star, here in the palatial Peoria Journal-Star headquarters in Peoria, Illinois. And with me today, we're happy to have Mark Spenny, the CEO and president of CEFCU. That's the credit union, not just in Illinois, but where else, Mark?
Well, actually, most of our business is here in central Illinois, right. But we have members actually in all 50 states, and we actually have 5 branches in the San Jose, California area.
I used to do business stories, which put me in touch with Mark periodically, and I always remember that area in California,
right, where
people also know CEFCU.
Yeah, but our headquarters are here, and most of our people are here.
Right, and CEFCU is one of those organizations that's just sort of synonymous with the Peoria area, central Illinois, I guess. And you've had a chance to work. How long have you been with CEFCU?
I've been with CEFCU for 25 years now.
Okay, so you got a feel for the organization.
I certainly feel for the organization, and I hope for the community too.
And in that regard, the community, people are always talking about economy, the economic situation in Peoria. You're in a good position as head of a very big credit union that involves itself with all manner of business things. How do you look at it right now in 2018 in central Illinois?
Steve, I would say the local economy right now is probably as good as it can be, but there are some disturbing long-term trends that we're going to need to address, and let me explain that a little more. When I talk about the current economy, one of the things that we see is that consumers are spending money, and we see that in terms of the transaction volume that our members are running through their checking accounts, the volume of debit card and credit card transactions, the demand for loans to buy cars and to buy homes. All are very, very strong, and that mirrors some national averages too. So what's happening here is happening nationwide in terms of a relatively strong current economy. We do see consumers being very cautious with debt. We're seeing our members paying down, paying off debt, as well as taking it out, and our delinquency numbers are very low right now. So, it seems like locally the level of debt is pretty manageable, and people are doing a very good job of managing that. So, those are all very good things for the local economy currently. When I say some trends longer term that are disturbing, I'm going to talk around population and more specifically employment. We've all seen the reports, the numbers that talk about population loss in the state of Illinois, that's not a good thing to be losing people, because people are the economy at the end of the day, and I guess more importantly for central Illinois, while people see the headline number on unemployment, and unemployment is historically pretty low here in central Illinois, although we're still slightly above the national averages. The numbers that we tend to look at more closely are the number of people employed here, and then the labor force participation rate. And over the last 10 years, we've actually lost in the number of people employed here in central Illinois, and while the rest of the country has gained.
Okay.
And the labor force participation rate, which takes a look at those people who are eligible to be employed, really looking at anybody over age 16, we're on a national basis, that number is about 63%, and it's been pretty steady the last few years. Peoria has declined, and the Peoria area now is under 50% in labor force participation. Now, some of those folks are retired, and retirees still add a great deal to the local economy. I mean, they're still very engaged.
Still spending money.
They're still spending money, buying cars, buying appliances, going out to eat, and doing all the things that add to the economy. But long term, we're going to need that next generation of workers behind them, and we haven't necessarily backfilled very well. And so long term, that's a concern for our economy going forward.
And that's something, when you hear about the things like the warehouse district, which has been getting established and developing nicely in Peoria. There's always that call for millennials or the younger. Caterpillar, I know historically has talked about trying to attract a younger workforce and keep them here.
Caterpillar and OSF, don't forget, with their new project downtown, and they will tell you that having a very vibrant and attractive downtown and warehouse district is important to them too. And specifically the healthcare area is a growing industry, in our community, and I think we're well set up. We've got two very strong hospital systems here with OSF and Unity Point, and really can claim that we are a regional healthcare destination. What exists here, it really doesn't exist between Chicago and St. Louis and Iowa City and Indianapolis, and so I think we're capitalizing on that, and I think there's more growth to come. Now, the downside to that is, the healthcare industry faces some huge cost pressures, and so you're not seeing rapid growth in the number of people employed in that industry because, a lot of the lower skilled jobs are getting eliminated through technology and through productivity improvement. But there's an ever-increasing demand for higher skilled jobs, physicians, physician assistants, APNs, and specialists in all different areas. And so, I think that augurs very well for the future. And then, when you see what's happening at the Jump Trading Center and what they're doing there in conjunction with the University of Illinois College of Medicine, with the University of Illinois College of Engineering, the biomedical engineering, and OSF, and everybody involved in that. There's some really amazing technologies happening there, and I think just this past weekend we saw a story in the Journal-Star about the virtual reality, and I actually got a chance to see that demonstrated at the American Heart Association Heart and Stroke Ball earlier this year, where a doc at that event had on the eyewear and was showing everybody what he did, walking through a patient's heart prior to surgery to see exactly what needed to be done once he did that surgery. So, that's amazing stuff that's happening there. The concern is commercializing that. The value of that we hope to capture by commercializing that. OSF has created a venture capital fund, but we hope that a lot of that can be invested here in the Peoria area, and that those technologies and those methodologies get captured here. So healthcare is an important part of our economic future.
Yeah, Mark, we're talking with Mark Spenny, who's President and CEO at CEFCU, the credit union. That's are you the largest credit union in? I'm guessing certainly in the area, but
certainly in the area. I think we're second largest in the state. Okay. There's a Allegiant Credit Union, which serves United Airlines employees and is in the Chicago area and nationwide. There's a little larger,
few people up there,
a little larger than us, but we're the largest, and we think we're probably the largest community credit union in the country that really focuses on serving a community. We
still recall the little green men. That's I think it may have even predated your time at CEFCU.
It did, but they continue to be legendary. We think of them from time to time too. We've thought about bringing them back. Don't tell Lee Wenger that.
No, he's all too. Lee's got those tights in the closet.
He's all too eager to put them on. He's told me on repeated occasions. So anyway,
we'll have to get Lee in here and get more on that. One of the things you're doing, Mark, and I think you mentioned the U of I, and you said something earlier about a nice partnership between the people maybe don't know about Wildlife. Well, explain first of all, what is your association with Wildlife Prairie Park?
Well, I actually have the privilege of serving as chairman of the board of the Friends of Wildlife Prairie Park.
Okay.
The park is something that right now is really going through a huge renaissance after coming back to local ownership. Through nonprofit ownership through the Friends of Wildlife Prairie Park, but local ownership and local focus here coming back from the state of Illinois. And we've just seen tremendous growth in membership and in attendance, use of the facility for all kinds of different events, corporate events, weddings, just amazing use of that park. And it is a real gem for the area and for the entire state. And we do see usage of the park on a statewide and even Midwest wide basis. But getting that message out there is a part of what we need to do. Specifically, what you're talking about is the animals are such an important part of the park, and I think when people think of Wildlife Prairie Park, they think obviously of the bison that are there, but there's so many other animals that are indigenous here to our area, and there's been a relationship formed between the park and the University of Illinois College of Veterinary Medicine that I think has been a tremendous win-win for both organizations. For the animals, they're getting the best health care they've ever received, and it's those animals are near and dear to us, and so we feel very gratified to see them in great health. For the students at the veterinary school, unique opportunity to experience treating animals, all different kinds of animals, and ones that they might not normally get a chance to see and expand
maybe
there.
See it running across the field somewhere, but not to actually treat it.
Absolutely. So that's been a tremendous benefit. Now, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention, we need to make the park sustainable in the long run economically. Right. The park's all about sustainability from an ecology standpoint. We do a great job on that, but we need to make it sustainable economically too. Making the park generate even a higher percentage of its operating costs from its own revenues is a huge part of that. We're not going to be able to look for tax dollars to support the park. We've got counties and cities and state, all struggling to meet their basic requirements, and so we're making further investments in the park. We have 7 new cabins planned to be built this year, and I know there was a recent Journal Star article talking about that and showing some of the renderings we have of that. Expect to get that construction underway this year, and those cabins will be an incredible new experience. There's already lodging at the park, but these cabins will be just an incredible new experience in their location, looking over the bison pasture, and then other capital needs that the park has, as well as making sure that the park has a rainy day fund, I guess I'll say. Right. Right now, the park really kind of operates hand to mouth day to day, and depend on some very generous donors who help keep the lights on. But we want to make that more sustainable in the long run.
And that's one of the challenges I know over the years. The Wildlife Prairie Park, went through. It was private, then it was state. Now it's back to being private. Yeah. The problem. Well, I don't know. Problem. The challenge, I guess, is how much do you charge, folks? Because you want area people to come out regularly, not just when Uncle Fred visits from Keokuk or something. And that's a real challenge, because I think sometimes it's looked at as, well, the kids have already been out there, so we don't need to go. When that's really not the idea. The idea should be go out there and you'll see something different every time.
It's amazing the outdoor activities that the park affords to people. It's a place for people to get outdoors, to get involved with nature in an environment that they probably wouldn't have otherwise. So, and I think that's something that people need to do. I once heard it said there's a little bit of tree hugger in everybody, and and I think that's a true statement. So the park is a way to kind of engage your inner tree hugger and create that that love of nature in our younger generation.
And we'd be remiss if we didn't credit Bill Rutherford, who years and years ago plotted this whole thing. He and his wife.
Bill and Hazel and the Forest Park Foundation really were instrumental and have been so instrumental in establishing the park, keeping it operating through the years. And I would be remiss if I didn't acknowledge the fact that part of our capital campaign right now, which is this phase of the campaign is about $2.5 million, but the Forest Park Foundation has already contributed $250,000 to that campaign to match contributions by board members, and has pledged another $1 million on a 2-for-1 basis.
Wow!
So every dollar that somebody contributes to that capital campaign is going to get matched by the Forest Park Foundation with another $2. So $1 becomes $3. And
so they're still in there pitching.
They're still in there and very engaged, and we really appreciate their continued engagement with the park.
Ballpark, what's the annual budget for the park?
A little over $1 million.
$1 million. Yeah. And people might think, well, it's just what's that? You put out food for the animals, or but it's it's the salary of the folks there. It's the maintenance of the trails. It's constant.
It's all of that, and I will tell you that number on the revenue and the expense doesn't really tell the story because there's only 23 employees at the park. There are hundreds of volunteers that the park depends upon, and sincerely appreciated. I mean, the park does not operate without volunteers. You know, whether it's the guys out there running the trains and repairing the railroad tracks, you know, people doing all kinds of maintenance and construction projects. The Peoria Area Mountain Bikers Association has created 20 miles of mountain biking paths within the park. The volunteer effort there is tremendous, and it's another way that people engage with the park and get an experience outdoors.
And the other thing is, and we were talking briefly about it before we started, and that's you have not only you have this huge fundraising effort, you have the the idea of maintenance and as you say, sustainability, but it's a marketing campaign all the time because even though we're throwing around the words Wildlife Prairie Park, there's probably somebody out there listening or watching on Facebook going, well, wait, is that the park in, where's that? I mean, they may not be familiar with it. There's always somebody that needs to know that, these are native animals of Illinois, and you can go there and walk the trail and see them, and maybe you won't see them because they'll be sleeping or hiding because they're not real crazy about people, but if you go out there at the right time, you will see them.
Well, not only see them, and that's one of the things that has been a benefit of the University of Illinois College of Veterinary Medicine in terms of the feeding. And one of the things they told us was, you're making it too easy for the animals to find food. They're, in nature, they have to go out and forage and find it. And so that's been one of the changes in feeding the animals, is that now those animals are out and about a lot more foraging. Doesn't mean they're always going to be out. I mean,
where do you put it this time?
Exactly. That's also improved their health because it made them lose a little weight, more activity.
I was going to say, we're always hearing that for everybody.
My wife has threatened to start doing that to me. I'm worried.
The other thing that we wanted to mention, Mark, and I think you have some great ideas on this because I think of your position at CEFCU, your position in the community. You know a lot of folks. You have a handle on this place, and that's Peoria as a retirement community. And now when you say that, someone might immediately go, well, wait a minute, what about Florida and Arizona and all the places that we're historically familiar with? And yet, there's some real points there.
Well, obviously, I'm interested involved in economic development in our community, but I'll tell you, the thinking on this kind of grew out of some discussions my wife and I've had. I mean, retirement is not imminent for me, but hopefully it's going to happen at some point in the future. And we start to think about where do we want to be in retirement? And we're fortunate that one of our two children is still here in the area, and all of our grandchildren are here.
Oh, that's nice.
But we've got a son in Lexington, Kentucky, who's a physician there, and that's a beautiful community. We thought, where do we really want to be? And as we looked at it more and more, we said, there's a lot of things that are very good about the Peoria area as a place to retire. And you think about this just a little bit in terms of what's important to retirees. Well, obviously, we've already talked about health care.
Right.
And that we know that's very strong.
And that's in place.
That we know that's very strong here. You think about culture and the ability to see theater or music or any one of the arts. And we've got a very strong cultural base here in this community with the various, the symphony, the arts groups, what the Civic Center brings, what Bradley brings. So culturally, we're very, very strong. You think about the ability to get outdoors and do things, whether it be hunting, fishing, golfing. Heck, you can walk on to golf courses here and not have to make tee times way in advance. Incredible availability. If you like to boat, you like to bicycle. All of that is so readily available here as a very attractive and easy thing to do. You talk about affordability. Housing affordability here is very good compared to a lot of other places.
I was just reading, and I know you're up to speed on this because of I'm sure you get information on a regular basis regarding CEFCU's there making home loans and everything else. That places like in California and other places around the country, certainly San Francisco area,
Right.
I think this goes up to Seattle and things like that. There's literally no place to live for people who don't have a certain income.
Right. Housing affordability, huge problem in a lot of other places.
Yeah, and it's growing.
Right. Whereas that's not a problem here. We have great affordability, and frankly, if there were increased demand, we've got land that we can still build on here that other places don't have. The other thing about retiring in the state of Illinois is right now the tax situation for retirees still pretty favorable in terms of the fact that the state doesn't tax Social Security benefits, doesn't tax.
Keep talking about it though, don't they?
doesn't tax pension benefits, doesn't tax withdrawals in IRAs and 401ks. Yeah, that's a concern going forward. Now I know some people are going to say, and I'll say it. I like winters, but for me, even there's a couple months there in the wintertime that get kind of ugly, and maybe I want to be somewhere else. But frankly, I have friends who've retired and moved to Florida, and they come back here a couple of months out of the year. They're different months,
right?
So I don't know that there's any place that's exactly a perfect climate.
Well, and we hear a lot about the climate change and the not just the warming factor, but the storms are more intense. Extreme storms,
right?
And that's going to hit places like Florida, with the hurricanes.
It's anywhere that's anywhere that's coastal is going to be a bit higher risk. So,
and the other thing I'm thinking, Mark, is when we talk about retirement or maybe moving into a second career, because maybe you're still doing something, but you're doing it part-time, you're volunteering, like the folks out at Wildlife Prairie Park and many others across the community at the hospitals and everywhere else. You're doing something you want to do for somebody else, you want to do it for yourself. But, in the world we live today, you can travel so readily to a city like Chicago, St. Louis, Indianapolis, Des Moines, whatever. And so that's accessible from Peoria. Plus, with the internet, you have so many options at your fingertips.
Well, that, and don't forget, really living in Peoria, and my wife and I have had the advantage of being able to travel many places in the world. Most of those trips have started here in Peoria at the Peoria International Airport, and you can get anywhere in the world from here. So, and easily. So
I tell you don't have to be a world traveler to appreciate our airport, because if you have to drive up to and O'Hare is a wonderful airport too, because it's so worldly and everything, and it's always fascinating to me to watch the shoe shine guy as he watches people go by and he watches their feet. Oh, sneakers! No, I'm not going to bother with that one. But anyway, there's a world up there. But when you go into the Peoria Airport, it's free parking. You go in; it's not a big crowd, or depending on where you go.
Getting through security,
you're there. You go down, and then it takes you wherever you have to go. And maybe you do have to change in O'Hare or Dallas or wherever. But you're there. You're on your way.
You are. You are. So it's a great benefit to have that here in Peoria.
That was the one thing that I think rankled some folks, and I won't bring you into this controversy because I know you were involved, but when Caterpillar announced their plan to move to Chicago, which of course struck all of us in Peoria as, what? It's like a jilted lover, you're leaving us. But one of the things they said was their proximity to O'Hare, which was like, so what? You're still going to be in line to traffic to get from Deerfield to the O'Hare. I mean, I'm sure it's less than it was, but that's another issue, and we won't bother with that. But no, I think the one thing that would be, I think, beneficial on the retirement side is if Peoria needs to move towards that is, and I think they had a guy come in. I covered the story, I think, some years ago for the Journal-Star. ICC brought in a speaker. And he was talking about, and he was out actually from California, from Age Wave or something like that. And he said it makes sense because you make your signs a little bigger, wherever they are, so those of us that are, visually impaired can see them. Well, that doesn't hurt the person that has good eyesight. They can see it fine too now. There are little things you do, making things safer, removing obstacles. It's favoring the older people that need a hand, but it's not going to hurt the younger ones.
Well, I think society overall is probably going to head more that direction than it is.
A
couple other things I'd be remiss if I didn't mention too about here at Bradley University we've got the Osier Lifelong Learning Institute, which is just an incredible institution. You like sports? We've got professional sports here with the Chiefs and the Rivermen. We've got Bradley Athletics. So it just as we've looked around, we said my wife and I kind of came to the conclusion we didn't see a place we'd rather be, and plus for us, obviously a lot of connections, a lot of friends here.
Sure, sure. Well, I think it's just a good effort to undertake, because it's not necessarily going to push anybody, into, well, I have to build this or we have to build that. I mean, I suppose those things could come, but it's more or less a state of mind, being aware of it, and as I've moved into the aged category, and I'm still here working, folks.
You're still young, man.
I'm still here. Don't push me away yet. But people always ask, when are you going to retire? This like I've got some timetable or something. And I don't know that. But I'm fine here. But I think one of the things that did you think about, and when you get to that age, or when you're thinking about doing something else, is I want to be respected. Not because I'm an old person, which I am, but because I've got experience. I've got, in other words, there's other things you need to be able to, I think, tell my kids and things, to stop, it's like feeding the animal. Don't make it too easy, don't make it so easy on me, I'm still able to do stuff. And I think that's a challenge that we need to get out there to people, that, hey, you're not helping, the Boy Scout helping the little old lady across the street. It's a wonderful picture. But that's not exactly what we're talking about here. I certainly don't want to stop any Boy Scouts from doing that, but hey, this is more about everyone wants to take part and engage as long as they can, especially with healthcare.
Yep.
Hey, we feel like we can.
Yeah. Right. Absolutely.
So,
hey, Steve, there's two other aspects of economic development I'd like to touch on, if we
sure,
just a moment.
You're the man.
Thanks. Well, I certainly don't have all the answers, but there's certainly some things that stand out to me. First of all, it's agriculture, and we obviously are very strong in central Illinois in terms of production of corn and soybeans and hogs and cattle and all the traditional commodity products. But the technology involved in agriculture is evolving, and it's becoming ubiquitous in agriculture. And I don't think a lot of people realize that. And we're blessed to have a company like Precision Planting, based in Tazewell County here, and started here locally, and now owned and a part of AGCO Corporation.
Right.
And I think there was recently a story that the Journal Star did about Precision Planting, where they talked about their plans on hiring a number of engineers and people in the tech sector, and they talk about making this area, the Silicon Valley of agriculture, and so I think that's something we need to be paying a lot of attention to and supporting here locally, because ag has become so technology based, and it needs to be for efficiency and to produce the food and fiber that the world demands. Another little aspect on agriculture, a little different than that, though, is also the farm to table movement and smaller scale agriculture that produces products that go directly to restaurants or consumers, and there's certainly demand for that. Here, there's a huge market for us in Chicago or St. Louis too, and given soil and climate and hopefully abilities of people here locally, we're still trying to figure that out a little bit, but that's an area that I think has great potential. The other thing economically that I think we need to pay a lot of attention to is just creating a great environment for entrepreneurs to start companies, and there's a lot of resources here for entrepreneurs who are wanting to do startup businesses, and between the Greater Peoria Economic Development Council, Bradley Small Business Development Center, the SCORE Group, there's just a host of resources here for startup businesses. And even though I might talk about healthcare or agriculture or being a place for retirees, there's entrepreneurs out there that have all kinds of different ideas. Who would have thought that a small business insuring contact lenses would turn into a company like RLI, and then they were obviously instrumental in bringing Maui Jim here. But that's what Jerry Stevens did as an entrepreneur, and so we just don't know where so many of those
where the next
ideas,
one will be.
where all those ideas. And the fact is, we're going to have to grow our own here locally. You're not going to see. We'd like to think there's going to be some huge employer move in and bring with them thousands of jobs. You're not seeing that happening nationwide so much, and we need to grow our own. So we need to make that environment for entrepreneurs very, 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 very strong.
those are great points, Mark. Because I mean, I think the Peoria Next movement that is evolving, I guess, as we speak. That's and here's how I'll throw this out, because I don't know if I mentioned it on a podcast or not, but you probably remember the I'm all about these little marketing add-ons, so bear with me. When Peoria, and I think the library initiated, the Peoria Public Library, but they had all these decorative pigs everywhere.
Yeah.
And it was like you design it and put it by your business,
right.
and some still exist. Yes. I think I've seen them periodically in different places. Well, I think the next wave will be robots, little mini robots, or you could have industrial robot. I mean, you name it, but they should be around the business community of Peoria, because that would sort of an emblem or signify the technology that's coming out of this area. I mean, we've got robotic in the hospitals, probably Caterpillar, businesses up and down, across the area. So that's just a thought that would help sell that point.
Yeah, it's a way that we can visually represent technology,
right? And then help the artists out who want to make these things. So and that's the other thing, the art community that you talk about, that we've talked about, aspects of Peoria, that's grown in a very short time.
Very, very, very vibrant art community, and a lot of people very dedicated to that. That endeavor.
Mark, we're gonna have to have you come back, because we just scratched the surface here on turning Peoria into a retirement center, medical center, and getting more of those folks to help boost the economy here. Yeah. But we appreciate you coming.
Appreciate you having me. Thank you, Steve.
Oh, it's our pleasure. Well, I want to thank Matt Dayhoff's been at the controls, makes this all happen here, and we'll see you next time on Tarter Sauce.